There's something no one has told you about Europe, and perhaps no one dares to say it. The old continent, so admired for its history and culture, holds secrets that go far beyond the Eiffel Tower or the Colosseum. The truth is that, behind the tourist photos and exchange itineraries, there is a territory of extremes, paradoxes, and curiosities that defy common sense. Can you believe that entire mountains were invented and mapped centuries ago? Or that there are cities as populous as entire countries? Well, there are some things there that few people realize. Maybe you grew up thinking that geography was just a boring school subject. But what if I told you that understanding these details can change the way you see the world, and even your own decisions? It's no exaggeration. The way a society organizes itself, the languages it chooses to preserve, the architecture it builds, or the maps it trusts say a lot about how it sees itself. And, in a way, they reveal what you can also learn to apply in your life. Yes, believe it or not, there is a piece of wisdom hidden in every European curiosity. If you are the kind of person who feels a pleasant restlessness when faced with something new, who likes stories that are not obvious, and who thirsts for transformative knowledge, then this content was tailor-made for you. Because here we will not only list facts, we will delve into connections, reflections, and, above all, possibilities. And I guarantee, by the end of this journey, you will see the map of Europe, and perhaps even your own trajectory, with different eyes. There's something almost magical about a good map. It's like a mirror of the world, or at least it should be. But did you know that it wasn't always like this? The Library of Congress in the United States, for example, has over 5.5 million maps, a veritable treasure trove of paper and ink. And yet, for centuries, people firmly believed in the existence of the Kong Mountains, a fictional massif in West Africa that appeared on dozens of 19th-century maps, and simply never existed. A curiosity like this shows that even the most reliable maps can contain errors that become absolute truths, until someone decides to investigate further. This teaches us a powerful lesson. Knowledge is dynamic. An old map may be a work of art, but it can also carry the misconceptions of its time. And this type of misconception is not restricted to paper. How many times have you followed a mental map drawn up by others about how your life should be? Have you ever noticed how certain paths that everyone says are safe may not actually exist? The curiosity to question is what drives those who want to go beyond the obvious. A good exercise would be to explore historical maps on the internet, such as those in the David Rumsey Map Collection, and compare them with current ones. You will be surprised at what people thought about the world. And here's how interesting it is. Today, with real-time geolocation, we literally have the world in the palm of our hands. But are we using this to truly understand the place we live in? Perhaps the most valuable curiosity is not in knowing where we are, but in asking ourselves how we got here. And, even more so, where we really want to go. Because just as ancient cartographers drew continents based on assumptions, many draw their dreams based on dubious certainties. And this is where we come to the question of density and diversity that shape not only geographic space, but also human space. Europe is one of those places that looks small on the map but hides a gigantic complexity. When we look at cities like Istanbul, Moscow, and London, we are talking about real worlds within a continent. Istanbul, for example, with its 15.3 million inhabitants, is a curiosity in itself. It occupies two continents at the same time, Europe and Asia. It is not only the population density that is impressive, but also the cultural mix that these cities carry. Each street can tell a different story, and on every corner you find a new way of seeing the world. This diversity is not only geographic, it is deeply human. In such densely populated places, cultures intersect and intertwine in an almost organic way. And here comes a powerful lesson. Living among so many people does not mean being surrounded by connections. Sometimes, the greatest emptiness is in the middle of the crowd. Therefore, cultivating curiosity about other people's stories can be an antidote to superficiality. Any practical tips? The next time you're in a big city, or even on a crowded bus, pick up a stranger and try to imagine their life. What do they love? What have they lost? What are they searching for? This sharpens your empathy and expands your inner world. And the more you understand about these densities, the more you realize that numbers do not mean presence. Having 15 million people in a city does not guarantee quality of life, just as having thousands of followers does not mean real influence. Curiosity here invites us to go beyond the surface. What makes a city come alive? Is it the number of people or the depth of the relationships between them? This question guides us to another kind of greatness. Not in the number of inhabitants, but in monuments that defy the sky and castles that resist time. Imagine looking at a city skyline and seeing a giant made of steel and glass reaching for the sky. The Lachta Center in St. Petersburg is exactly that, a 460-meter colossus that seems to touch the clouds. But the curious thing is that, even with all this modern grandeur, what really captures the heart of Europe are its structures that have stood the test of time. Like Malbork Castle in Poland, the largest castle in the world by area. A reminder that greatness can also be silent, built brick by brick, over centuries. It's not just height, it's historical depth. And here's a point to ponder. While skyscrapers symbolize the future, castles remind us of our roots. It's like in life. Many people want to grow quickly, but forget that a solid foundation comes from a well-built history. Want a practical example? If you're hesitating between investing your time in learning a new skill or copying a fast-paced trend, choose the skill. It's the castle. The trend is the skyscraper. Beautiful, but it may not last. Just as Malbork Castle has survived wars and regimes, well-built knowledge survives any crisis. The curious thing is that these two worlds, steel and stone, coexist side by side in Europe. And it is precisely in this contrast that the beauty of the continent is born. You can take a selfie with an ultra-modern building in the morning and, in the afternoon, walk through a medieval village. This coexistence between the old and the new is more than just touristic, it is symbolic. Because, as the world rushes towards progress, there is immense value in preserving what shaped us. And part of that involves something that unites all these structures: language. And not just that of bricks. Speaking is more than just making sounds. It is building invisible bridges between people. In Europe, this phenomenon is taking on impressive proportions. English is the most widely spoken language, whether as a native or secondary language. But what really stands out is the diversity. There are 24 official languages recognized by the European Union and more than 200 in everyday use. A true modern Tower of Babel, where curiosity is almost a basic need. After all, understanding someone else requires more than words, it requires the willingness to really listen. Now, look how interesting it is. Often, mastering a second language is not just a plus on your resume, it is the key to understanding entire cultures. Imagine the impact of watching a French film without subtitles or reading Dostoevsky in Russian. Does it seem absurd? Well, you should know that apps like Duolingo or platforms like Italki can put you on this path in just a few months. All it takes is 15 minutes a day and curiosity as fuel. Start with something you love: a song, a series, a recipe from another country. Language enters through emotion before reaching reason. But it is not just about learning languages. The true richness lies in realizing that each language has a unique way of seeing the world. While German has specific words for complex emotions, French can transform even a farewell into poetry. This shows that understanding other languages is, in practice, expanding the soul. And in such a multifaceted Europe, where each corner has its own sound, accent and way of expressing the invisible, this linguistic plurality paves the way for something even more fascinating: exploring the extremes not only of language, but of geography itself. When we talk about Europe, many people imagine a compact continent, almost like a luxury neighborhood of the world. But this simplistic view ignores how extreme and varied its geographical boundaries are. From the icy North Cape in Norway to the sunny southern point in Punta de Tarifa, Spain, Europe stretches across landscapes that seem to have been taken from different worlds. And the most curious thing, despite its relatively modest size, it is the third most populous continent on the planet. A great curiosity that shows that greatness is not measured only in square kilometers. This geographical variety also reveals a lot about how people live. Imagine leaving a trail of snow in the Norwegian fjords and, on the same continent, dancing flamenco on a warm night in Seville. These radical changes in the landscape affect everything: lifestyle, food, culture, and even people's moods. And this teaches us something valuable. The environment shapes behavior. If you want to change something in yourself, change the environment around you. Any tips? Change your daily routine, alter your stimuli, seek out new places, even in your own city. Curiosity often leads to a change of route. And, as we explore these physical extremes, it becomes impossible to ignore the force that sustains all this diversity: people. After all, it is not the relief that transforms a place, but rather the people who live there. And among valleys, mountains, beaches, and forests, countries emerge that, despite their peculiarities, share a significant global weight. Not only because of their position on the map, but because of the impact they have on the world, whether in economic, cultural, or demographic terms. And, when we look closely, one giant stands out among these protagonists. Europe may seem like a patchwork of countries, but when you carefully stitch these pieces together, the result is a colossus. Russia, with its vastness and population, leads in absolute numbers, although part of it is geographically in Asia. Germany, the economic engine of the European Union, leads among purely European countries. An interesting fact: if all European countries were to truly unite as a single nation, they would surpass the United States in GDP, forming the largest economic bloc on the planet. Strength lies in unity, something that, in life, is also worth its weight in gold. This potential leads to another kind of reflection: how to balance tradition with innovation. Germany, for example, is a symbol of this. It has a difficult past, but it leads in technology, engineering, and sustainable policies. It is as if to say, we learn from our mistakes and move forward with greater strength. If you are looking to grow financially, it is worth studying how countries like Germany invest in technical education, innovation, and sustainability. In fact, shares in companies such as Siemens, Bosch, and SAP are good starting points for those who are curious about combining investment and awareness. And the most fascinating thing is that, even with all this power, Europe still has an almost artisanal charm. While some countries fight for economic supremacy, it maintains the balance between progress and quality of life. A good wine in Italy, a long coffee in Paris, an afternoon of reading in Prague, all of this coexists with technology centers, industrial zones, and cutting-edge universities. And in the midst of this harmonious contradiction, we have learned that being great is not just a question of numbers, but of presence. And speaking of presence, the time has come to transform this data into an invitation to deeper reflection. And now, tell me, after all this, do you still think you really know Europe? Or rather, that you really know the world around you? What you discovered here today are not just geographical curiosities, they are clues. Clues that there is much more behind each number, city, or language. Clues that living with curiosity is what separates those who just pass through life from those who truly live with purpose. And if Europe is a living history lesson, what is your daily life teaching you, huh? The most important thing is this: what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to let it go, or are you going to use it as fuel to explore new ideas, paths, people? What was the part that provoked you the most? What fact gave you that click? Tell me here in the comments. I want to know what made you see differently. Maybe it was a wrong map, a city with millions of stories, or a language that you now want to learn. And look, if you enjoyed this dive and want to continue discovering interesting facts that really add value, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and come with me on this journey. Because here, we always go beyond the obvious, and the best is yet to come.